Hello, this is Susan Cowe reading the introduction to my book Survive and Thrive After Trauma, and the subtitle is A Personal Account of Life's Journey when Alcoholism, Almost Divorce and Death Shatter the Path. The book begins with the story of two people who started life together in the times when it wasn't chucked away after a couple of arguments, but I doubt the players assumed it would end the way it did. The main purpose of the book is to give hope, inspiration, energy to those who may doubt their future, to see and believe that you can move on. Life can change out of all recognition and for the better, to grasp the positive intention and message given by others who have contributed. And a joy can be just ahead of you. Baby steps can get you there. This book will be scattered with signs, scattered with humour and warmth too. Humour is vital to me. I love a good laugh. I enjoy simple pleasures, walking on the beach, my lovely but somewhat unruly garden, golf now, tennis and reading, my friends and family. So why am I writing this book? This book I always knew I had inside me, the one I assumed would always stay there tucked inside. I could choose to play safe, not allow this book to be made available to the discerning, critical and vast public. Hold it inside. I could choose to stay safe, but that wasn't what I was going to do, and that last statement is quite important and relevant. If it stays inside, what's the benefit of that? Negative memories and emotions are potentially damaging to mental and physical health. But vitally, I do believe I have something of value to share. The title Survive and Thrive After Trauma. What is trauma? A wound or injury? Emotional shock producing a lasting effect upon a person. I'm writing about the latter. I choose the simplest definition. I intend this book to be simple to read and to understand. To survive and thrive after an emotional trauma requires some form of action to be taken to remedy a situation. But you have to choose to take action. You will see the word and the suggestion to choose on several occasions. Choose and choice. Those words are fundamental to how I work with my EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique-based therapy. I believe many people do not appreciate or realise that there is always a choice in how we live or continue to live our life. We have a choice. No one can take that away from us. It's in our hands. I also believe it's wrong to expect others to always have to be there to help us with our mess. And sadly, it doesn't matter whether the mess was in no way, shape or form your or my fault. We only gain strength when we have managed to recover from a mess ourselves. The personal and varied contributions from others later in the book give testimony that we can survive, and very many of us thrive after difficult emotional trauma. I thank all those kind and generous people. In 2001, my comfortable, although not always harmonious life started to feel decidedly unpleasant and unattractive, and by early 2003 it was stunningly altered out of all recognition. The journey and decision to finally write my book was actually quite sudden. The complete laziness, which I had always assumed was the reason for not sharing or airing dirty linen, was turned on its head. The time was right. Quite suddenly, albeit law of attraction, I attended Stephanie Hale's Millionaire Bootcamp for Authors. I wanted to find out what might be involved in book writing. I knew very little. For some reason I was now curious. But it was also an opportunity to stay in London with my daughter. I love London and my daughter. This was a 3-day event, so I correctly assumed I would learn. I learned very many things. I wrote huge amounts of notes. And I expect that through the writing of this book, I will have used much of what I've learned. I invested in Raymond Aaron's offer. To help you write your book quickly was the phrase which made me sit up and consider that I may well invest in this programme. On day 1, I phoned home or to my children and reported that I'd managed to save a substantial amount of money. On day 2, I phoned home and reported that again I'd managed to save a considerable amount of money. On day 3, I reported back that I had failed to save money that day, as I had invested in a programme to help me write my first book. To me, it was a complete no-brainer. I had this book inside me. It was really starting to hold me back. I knew I could do it. I wanted it done and out of the way. Raymond stated that the book could be out within a certain amount of time. Now I consider that the out part was getting it out of my head. I did that very quickly actually and really enjoyed the process. I have chosen correctly, otherwise I believe I would have been foolish, to then spend considerable time improving my book, my story. Over the recent few years I had spent time, effort, money on me, my new skills, my life. Surprisingly, I felt I wanted to write more books, but this one had to be done first, and it most certainly had to be done correctly. I wasn't going to be free of my book, this mission, unless I was happy with its content. It was vital to me. However, I'm not quite sure if it will be vital to anyone else. So who am I to think I can offer hope, encouragement, belief to others? Who am I indeed? I choose to quote from the often quoted Our Deepest Fear by Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? So who am I? I was a primary teacher for many years and still do a little supply teaching. I'm Scottish. I have a son and a daughter and I love them both. This is partly a family joke. They used to ask which one I preferred. I never gave them an answer. And because I didn't give them an answer, they would both look terribly disappointed. I now see myself as an emotional healer, mentor, and energy practitioner. I consider myself a holistic practitioner and work in the field of psychotherapy. I work primarily with EFT, emotional freedom technique, and matrix re-imprinting. Other names for it can be psychological acupuncture or the tapping therapy. Excuse me, I use other tools of the trade. I'm a Reiki practitioner to level 3 master symbols and have a good level of counselling skills. From a marketing point of view, I call myself the Real Confidence Guide. I work with an individual, helping them to work through their issue to gain or regain confidence so that their future is seen in a much more positive light. The way I believe I help is by clearing the fear around their issue. An interesting observation is that most people don't believe that they are fearful. But that's another book. I may suddenly become humorous at inappropriate times, but hey, that's when some humour's necessary. Laughs. Big laughs. Deep stuff and trauma. Life's rich tapestry. There is a wonderful scene in the film Steel Magnolias. I've written the web address in the book, and it's a fantastic clip in Steel Magnolias, and it's the last scene that you might be given an option for, the funeral scene. Its actresses are Olympia Dukakis, Sally Field and Shirley MacLaine. I laughed, cried, was surprised, lots of emotional reactions in that fantastic scene. Humour, a reality check, call it what you want, can be vital if we are affected by trauma or upset. Otherwise, we may become self-obsessed, overindulgent, and feel sorry for ourselves for far too much of the time. In the past, I've asked my children and my partner to give me a shove, a push, when I'm being too serious, so that I can lighten up. I prefer being lighter, calmer. Life is much more pleasant and easy. But it is hard to forget the bad events one has experienced. However, it is not a prerequisite to life's path that we are bound by them. With this kind of life experience I will be sharing, it's quite hard to forget or block when you have children. You have a constant reminder. When my daughter read this part before the first editing, she asked what I meant by that statement. I wasn't surprised that she'd asked the question. I've found it quite difficult to explain this clearly, but an explanation could be that if I wanted to forget the whole sorry affair, they reminded me. They loved their father. They had lost their father. Sadly, his illness, alcohol dependency, had of course scarred them, must have scarred them hugely. In the early years after 2003, I perhaps could have booted those memories into touch if I didn't have the children. I could have tried to block the nasty stuff. But difficult emotions cannot easily be hidden. Over time, we needed a healing process. But they were a reminder. I was for them, they were for me. I couldn't escape that fact. So I think that's how I can best describe that somewhat emotive phrase. But facts are facts. Sometimes we have difficult stuff to deal with. And the others involved or on the sidelines carry on with their life, and so must you and I. But in time and with effort, I now remember the good times. It's a choice, and a healthy choice. You will see words written in bold quite frequently in the book. These words will be given their own place of importance later on in the explanations section. They are vital to the understanding of how we behave as people, what can drive us. But the big question is, why do they drive us? I try to give acceptable meaning to the words and to show how these or those emotive feelings can keep us in a place of negativity. To move forward positively in our life, we need to release the hold certain limiting emotions or responses have on us. So why might this book be of benefit and value to you or someone you know? Statement. A big trauma to one person is a small trauma to another. A small trauma to one person is a big trauma to another. It's how it's viewed by the individual. In the therapy world, there are definitions of trauma. A big T... Oops, lost my space. Hold on, please. Right. It's how it's viewed by the individual. In the therapy world, there are definitions of trauma. A big T trauma, when you are in a life-threatening situation, for example, war, rape, serious accident. A small T trauma, stressful and traumatic life events, an endless list which can shatter your emotional security. Trauma is very personal and individual. This book may help you or someone you know. I hope to offer help through my resources. I hope to offer a realistic approach to how trauma need not dictate the rest of your life. I hope to offer a light at the end of the tunnel. I hope to give others inspiration to work through their stuff. I offer you hope to rediscover the joy and pleasure in life. And for those of you who have come out the other end in our reading, I wish to share and celebrate with you as we continue positively on our life's journey. Perhaps my most important message is I hope to give people a realization that they can permit, allow and believe that they can heal. I want this book to allow you to think, I give myself permission to move on. I give myself permission for that traumatic event to stop dictating my thoughts, my feelings, my life. I will have certain words and phrases repeated on occasion throughout the book. Repetition of a fact can help change mindset. When I started writing this book, I wrote down a note to myself. Am I airing dirty linen, and if so, why? Could I not just keep all this stuff to myself? When I had just started this project, I took a tea break and turned the radio on and received a sign, the Four Tops, singing Reach Out, I'll Be There on Chris Evans' breakfast show, Radio 2 at the Olympic Village. I listened to the words and thought, these words resonate with why I'm doing this, and more importantly with what the readers may have thought at some point when considering their next step. There's a link to this song, I'll Be There by the Four Tops. Interesting words, have a look. The song's about the gremlins, the self-doubt. I also gave myself some stick-beating angst around the possibility that I can or may indeed hurt a small number of people by writing this. 3 of them are the most important people in my life. I feel an area of responsibility. In this case, I most definitely should be aware of a responsibility. However, this has not stopped me. I will not be using the important people's names, and as I write it, it does feel there's a lack of warmth, but privacy is vital. Fundamental to the book is the understanding that we are only responsible to ourselves. Illness, death, divorce, whatever the ghastly situation that befalls, we adults are only responsible to and for ourselves. When the young children are involved, of course, that's different. But we cannot be responsible for the action of others, and we should not expect others to be responsible for us. I am not permitting self-sabotage to stop me, and by that I mean the feelings which make you or me nervous or anxious. The, should I do this? Oh, but best not do it. A silly idea, who am I to think I can accomplish this? Or worse still, they'll all laugh at me. That kind of thinking does not serve me as an individual who believes that she has something to contribute to others. However, I have been tested, not surprisingly, during my writing. Interestingly, after I'd finished the first draft, the getting out of it my head, I suffered a trapped nerve in my right elbow. I'm right-handed. Now this could have been a sign to stop and forget the whole thing, to take the rest from writing and allow quiet and clarity to be given a place to do a proper job. I chose number 2. I trust, hope, wish that my loved ones will understand. Signs. We can take what we like when we receive signs, so you'll get my take on it. I've always thought that I'm quite unobservant, but highly intuitive. We shall see. Cynics can say what they will about signs or messages, but they're there for us to act on. Also, I expect this exercise to be cathartic. We'll see. I'm told that it should be cathartic, therefore it will be. And what do I want to have happen? I want this to be a book which can be given to others who seek or need inspiration. I wish it to be of value to someone who feels wounded by life. With regard to the small selection of contributions from others, I hoped for a variation of messages. I hope I have achieved this. I think I have. I am most grateful to them, and I trust you will see value in their positive statements. I see their brief interpretation of their event as a wonderful and generous gift to you, their positive message. I read their contribution and of course considered how awful that must have been for them. But it's part of their journey, their life's journey. It was something dark that they had to deal with, their experience, and they are learning from it. They have moved on. Thank you very, very much. For those who know and love me, they know I have a problem with keeping things to myself. I seem to need to share. And yes, I could keep it to myself. But now I know and understand many things based around the subconscious and its power to protect, to keep us safe, to keep us from facing our emotional pain. But if we faced some of our emotional pain, we could be released from its tight hold on us. We could be free to move forward. Now there's a thought. So I choose not to keep quiet. Emotional pain is still seen as a weakness. Put on a brave face. Oh, it will be better soon. I prefer to say that a quiet cry or a roaring of rage can be truly beneficial. Too many suffer in silence. Or is this really a British thing? I welcome comments. Finally, there but for the grace of God goes. This was written by John Bradford in 1555. That quote, there but for the grace of God goes, regardless of personal beliefs, is a statement that has been uttered, considered and acknowledged by many with regard to the potential pitfalls that life can have in store for us. So to Chapter 1, The Golden Years. Susan Cowe, reading the introduction to Survive and Thrive After Trauma.